Pick your click. Life is hard, times are tough, it's a cold world out there. The point is, to achieve what you want in life, it's going to take a lot of hard work. If anyone knows that, it's my guest today. He's been homeless, a gang member, and was even indicted for fraud. But that never stopped him. Joining me now with his story and his 9 steps to achieve any goal is CEO of Bartmann Enterprises and author of Bailout Riches, Bill Bartmann. And he is Skyping in from Tulsa this morning. Welcome, Bill.
Well, good morning, Meg. Thank you.
So your story reminds me a lot of that Will Smith movie, Pursuit of Happiness. How did you go from being homeless to a CEO?
It wasn't quite as easy as Will Smith made it look, although I admire that movie. That movie's a great inspiration for all of us. In my case, it was the old-fashioned way. Literally, I was a high school dropout. I had spent 5.5 years in high school without graduating. I was an alcoholic when I was 17 years old, and I was a member of a street gang. And fortunately for me, and maybe it's so timely because we're talking about Valentine's Day yesterday, Kathy, my wife now of 36 years, came into my life when I was 14 and she was 11. We dated for 10 years, now been married for 36, and she is the reason. She saw more value in me than I saw in me, and she persuaded me to get a GED test, and which I didn't think I could pass. And with her coaching, I took the GED test, passed, found a way to get into college on probation, stayed on probation for 4 years, graduated on probation, finally got into law school, flunked out, got back into law school, stayed on probation for 2.5 years, and then finally graduated. So my path was a little more tortuous than was Will Smith's.
Amazing. You just didn't let anything get in your way. You've got some great tips that help us achieve any goal, you say. And first up is to make sure your goal is your own. How do you approach this?
Well, absolutely, Mike. See, the problem I think people have is we let other people make our goals for us. They tell us what they want us to do when we grow up. And we know, you and I, we know people who are doctors because their daddy's a doctor, or they're a lawyer because their daddy's a lawyer. Well, we should be what it is we want to be. So the very first step of deciding what you want out of life is making sure that what you want is really what you want and not trying to satisfy someone else.
Now, next up, you say make it a promise. What do you mean?
Well, mostly we use words like goals, and you know, and I know, and everybody else seems to know that especially right now after New Year's, that we've all set lots of goals that mostly we miss on. Goals, the word goals, has a kind of a shallow meaning to it. Now, there's another word we can substitute for the word goal that has a higher, deeper meaning, and that's the word promise. When you make a promise to yourself or to someone else, that's something you full well intend to accomplish. So just changing the semantics of not calling it a goal, but calling it a promise.
And really you take it one step further. You say to clearly identify your promise, which means what?
Well, absolutely. And it means you sit down and clearly articulate to yourself. It doesn't have to be to anyone else yet. You articulate it to yourself. What do you really want to accomplish? In my case, and this may sound a bit absurd, considering where I was at in life, I wanted to become a member of the Forbes 400. Now, that may not be a goal that everyone shares, but a kid growing up on welfare and poverty, that was a nice, clean way for me to say I really wanted to be in a much better economic condition than I was born into.
And why not set your goals high, right?
Absolutely. You can shoot for the moon and miss and land on a star, or you can shoot for a street light and end up in the parking lot. The choice is yours, how high you want to shoot.
Okay, your 4th tip is to identify your personal motivator. Can this be a person or a specific thing?
Well, you know, what I'm speaking of there when I say identify a personal motivator, Meg, there are, you know, we all know what it's like to have a cheerleader. We all know what it's like to have somebody who's rooting for us. But we also all know what it's like when we have people who aren't supporting us. And therefore, you can have a positive motivator or a negative motivator. And a positive motivator would be, in my case, my wife or my children. They are always on my side. But my negative motivators are the people who tell me I can't. They tell me I'm too short, too tall, too fat, too skinny, too this, too that. They're the ones that laugh at us when we come up with great ideas. Well, I write their name on a 5x7 index card and I carry them with me. And then when I really need motivation, I just look at their name on that card, and that gives me all kinds of motivation.
Right. You don't need any of that negative reinforcement anywhere near you. Let's move on to your next tip, and that is to achieve any goal, and that is to review your plan a lot. And why does this help so much?
Well, it is so important psychologically that we believe ourselves that this goal is achievable. And the way to convince our mind and our subconscious is this constant repetition of looking at it. So I encourage my students to write their goal, their aspiration, their promise on a very small card and carry it with them and look at it regularly on a daily basis if they can. And what it does is send a subconscious signal to their brain that they really do want this. Oh, and there'll be days when they challenge it, but mostly it's reinforcing that one simple thing, that this is indeed what it is they're really after in life.
Okay, I like this next tip, Bill, because you say to keep reinforcing that you will achieve it. And how important is self-confidence in this overall plan?
Oh, it is absolutely crucial. We all know what it's like to hear that negative voice inside our head where we're expressing self-doubt, we're expressing uncertainty, we're telling ourselves we're not sure we can do something, and sometimes we even hear an external voice tell us we can't do things. Well, the reciprocal of that, the opposite, and in the law of nature, there's for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. For every positive there's a negative. We should then instill a positive voice inside our own head that tells us we can do these things.
Right.
It's not lying to yourself. It's just reinforcing your own positives.
And this next tip is really good, because I think people can be insecure about telling other people about your promise, but you say this really helps.
Oh, it does. And the more you tell others how it is you plan on succeeding, a couple of three things happen every time you share it with someone else. One, if these are people who are positive in your life, they are anxious to help you, but couldn't until they found out what it is you wanted to go do. We can't expect them to have ESP. And the second group are the people that will laugh and jeer us and say that's silly or that's stupid or who do you think you are. Those are the people we write on those 5x7 index
Right.
cards and let them be a motivator for us.
Okay, and your final step to achieve any goal is to visualize the final result. And how do you do this?
Oh, this is crucial. This is absolutely powerful. You have to be able to see yourself in that moment. You have to be able to look out and believe inside your own head that you could achieve that. So in my case, again, wanting to become a member of the Forbes 400, I knew that the Forbes magazine published every October a list of the 400 richest people in America. Well, when I was in bankruptcy, I would get a copy of that magazine,
Right.
and I would look at it and I would read all the stories of all the people who had made that wonderful list, and I would envision and fantasize myself someday being on the cover of that magazine.
Certainly, it came true, that visualization. It's really powerful stuff. We're basically out of time. So, Bill, thanks so much. It's always nice to talk to somebody from Oklahoma. My husband's from nearby Bartlesville, so thanks a lot.
Thank you, Meg.
All right, and you can pick up Bill's book, Bailout Riches, on bookshelves now.